Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to Islamic Learning with Masjid As-Sabur. I am your co-host, Adrian Jasper, filling in for Imam Hazem Rashid. He's on hiatus right now. And we're going to continue our discussion, part 2 of our discussion with Brother Ishmail Al-Jihad. And we have another guest that's joining us, Brother Antar Jana. And we were discussing the Say No to Prison initiative that Brother Ishmael started, an organization here in Sacramento preventing youth from going to prison. So Brother Antar is going to come in here and join us and tell us about his works with youth and inmates, and tell us about your works in that field and what you do.
Okay, well, my works now are dealing with inmates, trying to prepare them to go home.
Okay.
And then after they get home, they kind of keep them out. So the recidivism rate is about maybe 70%. After a couple of years of being out, they go right back. So we have to kind of prevent that. And I worked for the California Department of Corrections for the last 20 years. I just retired in May. So I was at Soledad for 15 years. I went to the Youth Authority for a couple of years, and then to the medical facility in Vacaville. And while I was there, not only being the Muslim chaplain, I also conducted a entrepreneurship program, because I believe that they need to. A lot of them can't get jobs when they get out.
Okay.
So they need to start their small businesses and get some motivation, so that they understand that it's going to be tough when you get out, and then you need an alternative.
Right.
And you definitely need a strong mind, mental toughness. So I try to kind of hammer that into them. So that's my mission.
So what type of entrepreneurial endeavors do you teach them or present to them?
Well, basically, when they first come to the class, it's I have a program called GAME. It's Greatness Achieved Through Motivation and Ethics.
Okay.
So I asked the inmates, all of their first assignment is, tell me what kind of business you want to start. Most of them, they come from street background, mm-hmm. So it's about dope dealing and pimping and robbing and stick-up men, artists and stuff like that. So they don't necessarily know about entrepreneurship. So some of them are just stumped, like, I don't know. And so some of them, what I tell them is, what would you do 7 days a week, 16 hours a day for free? Whatever that is, you need to get paid for it. And so one time I had a chapel full of men, and it's all different nationalities and races come in. It's not just for the Muslim community. The gentleman way in the back was smiling, like I could see all his teeth after I said that. And then after the meeting was over, I went back to him and said, well, what is that thing? And he said, cooking. Yeah, you could tell he was kind of heavy. He liked to cook, he liked to eat. So he said he's a chef. He had 4 sisters. He could cook. He wanted to open up a restaurant, and he wanted to be the chef. And so after they find that thing that they really love to do, then I start showing them how, you can do it. I don't care if it's nuclear physics or nanotechnology. You can go into that business and not have a degree in nanotechnology just by taking an aspect of the business. It might be some screws or something that they use. You're a minority contractor, and you could actually sell those screws to people who are involved in nanotechnology, and you're in the industry. Once you get the business license, because everybody has to get a business license to go into business, they're going to start sending you brochures, and they're going to start telling you when the next nanotechnology seminar is going to be and symposium, and you just go there, you meet people, you pass out cards and tell them you're in the business, and they'll educate you. And there was one young man, he went in aerospace technology.
Wow.
He got out, and he was working with NASA.
Wow.
And everything, but he had some students that came and worked for him in his garage. Because he was in the business, the students get credit in the summertime for coming to work for him, and all he was doing was picking their brains. Like, what are your teachers telling you? I mean, what's next? What's coming up? And stuff like that. And so he realized in my class that, Thomas Edison didn't have an education. A lot of people, Henry Ford, a lot of people didn't have education. And even some of the great ones out there today dropped out of college. Gates and Zuckerberg and all those guys dropped out of college. So they realized that, okay, my inferiority complex is telling me that I'm not really good because I dropped out of high school. Later for that. Go out and read everything in the library about that subject. Because I tell them, if you study any subject 15 minutes a day for 5 years, you'll be an expert. And so little things like that, so we
Right.
throw that at them and they start coming up, start realizing, okay, we can really do this. And then give them books to read, self-help books, motivational books. Then they start to realize, okay, yeah, you know, I can do it. And once they do that, all they have is time on their hands. So now they can spend that time getting ready to go home.
Yeah.
And some of them have enough confidence when they get out that they do start businesses and do well.
And a lot of them, they do have a natural business sense. Because if you can run a drug business, come on, you can run any business.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's marketing, that's packaging, that's you got to have your customers.
Yeah, weighing and measuring.
Yes, you know,
Chemistry.
I mean, it's a bad business,
Yeah.
but it's a skill. If you can transfer that into, you know, you can run a drug empire, you can run IBM.
Yeah, a friend of
I
mine.
think.
Yeah, a friend of mine. His name is Mike Harris. The people know him in the hip hop community as Harry O. He was in Soledad for about 4 or 5 years. We'd meet every Friday after the game program and talk. He's the one who gave Suge Knight $1.5 million to do Death Row Records, and he was in jail when he gave him the money. The money was legit. He was selling dope in 13 states, but he was the first black man to have a play on Broadway. You know, with Denzel and Vanessa Williams and Ruby Dee and Ron O'Neal, 4-person play. He had it on Broadway, and this man is probably the smartest man I ever met. Genius, and he became Muslim recently in San Quentin, but he was doing legitimate business from prison. He took his drug dealing mentality, like you say, business. He was corporate in drug dealing, and then he started going into legitimate business, and he's very prominent in legitimate business now. So, like you're saying, that same mind that he had in the illegal business is
Right.
transferable into legal business.
Right. So, being that being a Muslim and also a person who, you know, aspires others to be in business, how does your Islamic principles influence how you approach the business end of
It's well, in two ways. Islam has a master plan involved in it. Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, had 23 years of success and struggle and trials and tribulations, but he became the most successful man on earth because of following the instruction he got in the Quran, the word of God coming to him, and he followed it. He did it. Allah said, "Say this," he said it. "Do this," he did it. "Go here," he did it. So as a result of that plan, he was successful, and so we got the same plan. And I know it works because I was incarcerated, and I did time in prison, and I got out. And you correct me. What's the phrase correctly? But the Prophet said, "The way you were in Jahiliyyah or in ignorance, you will be that way." And
the best of them in the days of ignorance are the best of them in Islam.
So I was pretty good at selling dope and sticking up people. You know, when I went to jail for bank robbery, I had a lot of courage. I was doing crazy things in the street. Once I became Muslim, I started doing courageous things, but in a righteous manner. And I started to, after I learned, I was still the same person. You know, I was still aggressive. I was still ambitious. All the things I was doing in the street, I didn't know any better. I really didn't. I was doing what I believed I had to do to make money and to be successful. Once somebody showed me something new, and a counselor gave me some books in prison, the self-help books, I started realizing there's another world. And I started using the same energies that God had blessed me with when I was a child, to grow up with, to be aggressive and to be an entrepreneur and to be a businessman. I started using it in a righteous way. So Islam gives you that opportunity. You know, these guys are going to be the same, aggressive, courageous people that they are, and now they're going to come into Islam, and Islam is going to enhance that and send them in a direction where they can actually prosper. So Islam really takes that natural energy that's in a person, redirects it, you know, and just spins them out into success. Because when we call the people to prayer, we call it the call to prayer, the adhan, but it's really the call to prayer and cultivation. Okay, so we're calling them to prayer and success, and then once we start accentuating that part of the deen, then you start seeing people just blossom. And so Islam is it's a good, great pill, great medicine for the people that are involved in crime and criminal activity.
So when you're teaching them, their entrepreneurial skills, the businesses and those principles, are you also alongside that? Are you teaching them the Islamic principles, business principles, so they can understand? They can have a guide to work with and a format.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because see, one thing that happens in this society, especially in America, and we see it on TV all the time. The businessmen are getting busted all the time. They're getting arrested. They're getting arrested for Ponzi schemes. They're getting arrested for savings loan scandals, real estate. So the young people or the people that's involved in crime, they look and see them. That's their role models. I mean, the president is doing freaky things in the White House, and so they're looking up there and saying, "Hey, these people are not the best role models and examples. So why pick on me?"
Right.
So when we start showing them ethics and morality and decency and how you can win being ethical, how you can actually be more successful than the average person if you're ethical and moral and decent, they pick up on it. Because the main thing that they don't want in the street is they don't want to be played. They want to be the players. Like, don't play me. Don't get over on me. But once you can convince them that, hey, that's exactly what they're doing, they're getting over on you. You think you pimping? No, they pimping you. And when they start to realize that, okay, I'm getting the short end of the stick. No, they want to now read whatever you want them to read, open their mind up to so they're not in that situation where they believe that somebody's playing on them. And so, they're really receptive to ethics and morals, because I think, it's all in all of our natures.
Right.
That we do want to do right. We want to be good. But if I grow up and my mom and daddy's, using dope, and all my brothers and sisters is acting crazy, and everybody in my neighborhood, I'm going to go with that peer pressure and do what they're doing. But if I get around some good people, then really that's who they want to be with. But they don't have the opportunity. And so in prison, they're just kind of there, like, they're a captive audience. So we pretty much got them for a while, and they listen. And the ones who are sincere, they do well with ethics and morals.
So, do you see a lot of the inmates when they come in and out of jail? Do you see it more of a spiritual bankruptcy problem, or just a social problem, or is it both?
Both.
It's both.
Yeah, both. I mean, the religion that they're brought up in. I was a Baptist when I grew up, and I saw a lot of corruption in just religion, in the environment. I mean, the religion is supposed to really check the environment and improve the environment. But I saw the environment getting worse and worse and worse, and more houses of worship are popping up and everything. But it didn't curve their. So a lot of people come into prison. The people that come into our congregation, they're Christians. So when they come into prison, they're Christians, but they really didn't practice. They didn't know the Bible. They really weren't practicing. They weren't really trying to be the best at that. It was superficial. So when they come into the prison, they start listening to Islam, they join, they start to practice, and they get better. But the social environment that they came from, totally corrupt. Totally corrupt. So the religion's not strong enough to grab them. So they're not respectful of the religion that's on the street, and they're not respectful of the society. So really it's a lack of respect. There's a lack of love, a lack of respect. Why? Because they don't get love. Because a lot of people blame the youth, and it's a great program that he has, because he's helping the youth. They blame the youth for this problem when we know as adults. I'm 62 years old. We know as adults, they didn't create this mess. Their parents were smoking weed, drinking alcohol, partying on Friday and Saturday night, and now you got a young group of people out here, 18, 19 years old, that's acting a fool. But their grandparents was playing dominoes and slapping cars and drinking beer and drinking wine and everything. So it's like 4 or 5 generations that have created this mess. And then now they want to point the finger at this generation and say they're the problem. That's wrong. What they need is some love. Like he's giving them, they need a hug. That's all. And they'll be better.
Yeah, so now you two brothers, you've worked together, working with.
Yeah, we were closer together.
So Ishmael works with the youth. His organization is trying to prevent youth from coming to prison. So you work with the ones who've gotten there.
Yeah.
So talk about what you see from your end versus what he sees on his end.
Well, like when I worked at Soledad, I went there in 1994. That's when I first started to work there. But I was volunteering before then. There was more lifers on that main line than any other prison in California at that particular time. These are men that are doing 7 to life, 15 to life, 25 to life. That means that their top is life. They can keep them in there for life, but they're supposed to have a matrix where they let them out at a certain time. But that's not really is what's been going on. They've been keeping them for a long time. So I have to motivate men that don't know when they're going home. Their parents are dying. Their wives are sending them the letters saying, I don't want to be your wife no more. I mean, they got to come into the office and we got to talk about that. And they're really strong. They're strong men. They hold on. A lot of them are getting out now. And we had one gentleman just got out in Oakland recently. He did 40 years. Okay, and a lot of men are getting out at, doing 25. So he's seeing people coming in. I'm seeing them that didn't learn the lesson when they were with him. But he comes in and he works with the adults too. He doesn't just work with the youth. He comes in Vacaville. He does Jummah prayer in Vacaville. He counsels the men in the adult facilities too. So and I have worked in the youth authority. So it's like we cross mixing and pollinating. So it's a comprehensive plan. It's not really the youth, because some of these youth are worse than the adults, and some of these, it's like, he has murderers. He has people in the youth authority that are in there for murder and selling drugs, and it's like it's kind of a horrible situation. But he has to deal with those people. They end up, some of them, in there with me, and now they're doing life, and we just keep on going. The main thing is, based on my experience, and I think his experience also. I don't know if he talked about his experience too, but he was not a good guy a long time ago.
No. I was in prison myself.
He was in prison too. So, but the thing is, nobody gave up on him. He got help somewhere along the line and changed. There were people that didn't give up on me, and I changed. So we can't give up on the lost souls. Right now, they're just lost souls. They just need to be found and give them the right guidance, and they turn around. But our job is the same.
So do you work with him at his organization, or do you,
No, I left the youth authority and came back to the adult facilities.
I mean the Say No to Prison initiative.
Oh, we've talked about it and discussed it. I'm available, and I want to help him any way I can.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's not even a question. He's been coming into Vacaville, helping me with all aspects of the program, and we work closely together all the time.
So, have you thought about having do you ever have I remember they used to have those Scared Straight programs.
Well, what I've come to find out about the Scared Straight methodology is that the Scared Straight methodology does not work. And the reason why I quoted in the first half the verse about rahmah, about mercy, a lot of these children are victims themselves. Now this is just from the youth perspective, and how it transcends into the adult perspective is that I have one kid that is in prison for murder and attempted murder. Okay, and when I asked him what took place, he said him and his cousin were just walking to the skating rink, had no gang involvement, had no criminal involvement, and because they were from a particular neighborhood, they murdered his cousin. And he held his cousin's dead body, or held his body while he died. And he did this at 11 years old. And when I asked him, what counseling did you get? What help did you get? What psychological help did you get? He said absolutely none. So his reaction was, later on when he got old enough to get a gun, and he saw the individual who it was alleged that he did the murder, he attempted to murder that individual and then successfully murdered another individual. So it's more or less these children are victims first before they start to commit crimes. They're victims of poverty, they're victims of domestic violence, they're victims and survivors of assault, battery, sexual abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, and nobody is addressing those particular ills. So if you yell at them, if you scream at them, if you scare them into being good, all you're doing is perpetuating that same violent environment that it is that fostered the criminal activity in the first place. So what we want to do with the Say No to Prison initiative, just like the GAME program does, it's a different route. It's a different approach. It's actually showing them the good that lies within inside their soul and bringing out that good, and not telling them that if you keep on being bad, this is what's going to happen to you. No, look, you're good. There's good inside you. All we need to do is just dust it off, wash it up, clean it up, pick you up, okay? And let's just work with it. So I would say that those programs, that methodology, it just doesn't work.
Okay. So basically, there's just a lot of broken souls out there, kids, just a lot of youth out there with broken spirits, broken hearts, broken souls, and they need that part of them repaired, for them to be whole. That's what I'm hearing. Just
exactly.
Broken.
One of the most powerful times that I ever had in a prison environment, when I was working with Antar and I was visiting the hospice program, and it was an older man that was dying of cancer, and he was 82 years old, and he was on his deathbed, and he told me, he said, I don't have any honor, and I'm going to die here, a criminal, with no honor. And after talking to him, after imparting upon him the overwhelming amount of mercy and forgiveness that was available with God, he accepted God into his life, and he accepted the Prophet Muhammad into his life. And I assured him that based upon that, God would forgive you for all of the evil things that it is that you did in your life, and that will be your one thing of honor, because now you're saying that, oh God, forgive me, I reject all of the stuff that it is that I did in my former life, that I don't want to, that to be my representation when I come to meet you. Now, given that opportunity to most people, no matter how it is you give it to them, they'll accept it. And so that's mainly what we want to do, just like Antar does in the GAME program. He's not talking a lot about it, but giving an individual just the idea, you would be surprised how many people who have committed crimes don't know legally that they can have a business license, that they can have their own business without having a degree. So hopefully, we work side by side continuously, both in our mosque and also in the community. We just need a lot of support from outside. We need you guys to support the Say No to Prison initiative and the GAME program, and some of the other things that our experience has brought us to want to offer and to give to the community.
So if people want to come and want to support you and your program, what can they do?
Well, the GAME program is transitioning now to the outside.
Okay.
I was doing the GAME program every week in the prison. Like I said, I retired in May.
Okay.
And so now we're formulating the GAME program as a nonprofit, and we want to work on the outside with the families and work with the inmates on the inside. So we're putting all that together right now, and we'll hopefully invite us back.
Yes.
And I'll come back in the near future and tell you all about exactly what we're doing and how we're starting.
Fantastic. Yeah. So do you have a particular verse in the Quran that you like to refer to that?
Yes. Also, 103 in the Quran, it says, by the token of time through the ages, man is at a loss, except those who have faith and practice righteous deeds, and those who come together in the mutual teachings of truth and patience and constancy. These men have time on their hands, and when they start to understand that time is on the side of the people who are righteous, it's not on the side of the people that are not. So when they start to understand that, they start using their time better, because They have to get that in their head, that time is not on the side of those who are not doing well. They're not purifying their hearts. And so they have plenty of time on their hands, and they can actually do something about that using that verse.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So, again, thank you for viewing our show. We are Masjid As-Sabur, located at 4926 15th Avenue on the corner off Stockton Boulevard. We have Jumu'ah services every Friday at 1:30 p.m. Everybody's welcome to come. And our website is www.masjidassabur.org. So come and check us out. Thanks again for tuning in. Thank you, brothers, for coming and sharing your expertise and all of your works. And God bless you all. And thank you all for tuning in again. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
I want to remind everyone, Masjid As-Sabur, 4926 15th Avenue. Our new masjid is gorgeous. We just finished planting over 100 plants in front of the masjid. We just got through cleaning up the kitchen and getting ready to clean up all of the wudu stations. And we want you to come and join us. Every Friday, 1:30 p.m., Masjid As-Sabur, Sacramento. We are also on the web, www.masjidassabur.org. And we're on Facebook, so please like us. Again, we thank you for your patience and your time. We want to remind you that God truly has a message for you. And we want to remind you that we are here to give you any help that you may need. As God has taught us, He is a merciful God. As long as you come to Him and ask forgiveness, He will forgive you. So no matter where you are in life, there is a hope for change.